Hey everyone, so today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. Rather than critiquing something that's right in front of us, we're going to be looking at something that we never actually got. Also, real talk, I am starving, so I just ordered food before hitting record, so I might just have food randomly in the video. We'll see. Back in 2016, we were supposed to get a Sly Cooper movie made by the same studio that gave us the Ratchet & Clank film. After that movie flopped at the box office, and with most audiences, the Sly Cooper movie was quietly cancelled. The project would not resurface until June of 2017, where Sony announced they moved the project from Rainmaker Studios to Technicolor Animation Productions, the studio that animated whatever the hell this is. From here, the project saw a drastic change in direction. Rather than a movie, the project was shifted to be a television production, in a similar vein to all of Technicolor's other cartoons. According to an archived version of their website, the Sly Cooper TV show was set to be 52 episodes of 11 minutes each. While we don't have a trailer, we do have some images of our leads. The art style of the show seems to be derived from the original project, that both bring the designs closer to the original games while also making the product much cheaper to produce by lessening the detail on the characters. Sly looks the most similar to his film counterpart, with the only major difference being the outfit. Rather than the realistic raggedy texture of his clothes, Sly's outfit is much brighter and has a lot more solid colors, making the design seem more simplistic and matching the cel-shaded look of the PS2 titles. Murray keeps the same redesign he had in the movie, but his outfit is actually a recreation of his design in Sly 2 and 3. The original movie outfit was such a departure from everything else Murray wore in the games that it just made the whole design feel like an entirely different character that was going to focus on the wrong aspects of his character. With his original clothes paired with the new design, it feels like a middle ground that totally makes this version feel a lot more like Murray. The character that got the most massive redesign was Bentley. In the movie, Bentley's design was based off his look in Sly 2. Rather than his glasses being the main way his character expresses emotion, the more realistic art style led to his face and movement being extremely expressive and keeping the glasses static. However, his redesign in the TV show is much closer to his design from Sly 3 onward. His glasses are no longer transparent, mirroring how his glasses look in the games. He also has his trademark wheelchair, which is something that the film version was completely missing. Whereas the synopsis of the movie showed that it was a dedicated retelling of the first game, the show's synopsis made it seem like it was a lot more vague, so that they could tell any story they wanted to in the universe. Sly Cooper follows the adventures of an irresistibly charismatic raccoon, a modern-day Robin Hood, who restores justice to his city one theft at a time. Sly is aided by his two best friends, a muscular hippo named Murray and a brainy turtle named Bentley. Hot on Sly's trail is Inspector Carmelita Fox, a morally upright cop with an unfortunate crush on the charming bandit, as well as a band of villains, each one more strange and colorful than the last. Mixing humor, action, and a remarkable cast of characters, Sly Cooper promises to be an unforgettable series. It sounds more like a pitch than a synopsis, but okay. The synopsis, the updated look for the characters, and the studio behind it shows what the show was going to be like in full form, and I think most of it actually plays against the strengths of Sly Cooper. Despite the noticeable lack of budget, Sly Cooper always set out to give a compelling narrative to draw in the player, and made sure to weave the story into the core of the game in interesting ways, while still indulging the player in wacky moments you'd expect out of something like Looney Tunes. Tell me if this is just not the pinnacle of audio design in gaming.
La, la, la.
Character was always the most important thing that set Sly Cooper ahead of other platformers. Bosses would taunt you and give you more of their personality the longer the fight went on with them, same as you're going through their levels. The gang was also in constant contact with each other and fulfilling roles and missions that the other team members couldn't. Over the course of the series, we hear plenty of past adventures that the team has gone on, helping the audience feel how deep these characters' bonds truly are, despite being in a very limited number of games. Sly 3 had a short film that showed off a random adventure of the gang in the same art style as the cutscenes, and there was even a three-part trailer for Sly 4 being an animated short showing the gang working together in the game's more fluid, cartoony style. And this is sort of what I think the basis of the show was going to be, just 11-minute adventures with the Cooper gang with Carmelita hot on their tail. But before we start making this show, I want to take a look at Technicolor's other TV show based on a video game. Sonic Boom. The original idea for Sonic Boom was for this world and story to be fleshed out through the games and TV show, with the idea of this massive world that our characters inhabit being central to why the audience would want to check out other pieces of media. It wanted to be this Western alternative to the modern series and their more Eastern-focused gaming philosophies. During development of Rise of Lyric, when it was still called Sonic Synergy, the idea was for the game to be based on combat and exploration, most likely to let the player discover the mystery of the ancients for themselves, similarly to how a series like Halo handles the use of Forerunner technology in its narrative narrative. If you watch the original Rise of Lyric announcement trailer, you can see the focus being on the environment, the world, and the intrigue of the mystery of who left this all behind. You can see the more mature edge this was going for, you know, despite Bangarang.
Make way!
That is until Technicolor stepped in. The development of the show actually started as an entirely different pitch for a completely unrelated Sonic cartoon, wanting to fill the television hole left by Sonic X. Before long, the project was added to the sub-franchise and became the Sonic Boom TV show, with the game now acting as a prequel to the events of the show. And supposedly pretty much 8 months before the launch of the game, Sega gave complete creative control of the Sonic Boom sub-franchise to Technicolor Animation, meaning that Big Red Button had to change their game to fit whatever they decided to do. And judging by what we saw with Sonic Synergy compared to what we have in the final state of the franchise, I think we can definitively say that this decision is what killed the entire Sonic Boom series before it even got off the ground. Looking at other projects done by Technicolor Animation, they are all geared towards a very young audience. Most of what they make are simple shows aimed at children, with little to no continuity between episodes. So when presented with this massive world, mystery, and characters that are coming off of an epic adventure discovering ancient secrets, it makes sense that Technicolor may have been intimidated with the scope of the project they were just given. So rather than working with Big Red Button to use what they've already made to inform the show, Technicolor seemingly defaulted to what works for them as a company, an episodic kids show with little to no continuity between episodes in a comedy series, with that development ultimately crippling the game that was in production far longer than the show they now had to connect it to, and changing the direction of the franchise from what was described as Sonic meets Jack and Daxter to your average Saturday morning cartoon that is admittedly way better than it has any right to be. So why did I just bore you with the history of Sonic Boom? Well, it's because I think they used a lot of what worked with Sonic Boom to inform Sly Cooper, because they were kind of put in the exact same position as before. Now I just want to preface everything I'm about to say with the fact that there isn't nearly as much publicly available information about the TV show as I would have liked, so consider this like just pure speculation based off of what I could find doing all of the research I could about this TV show. There was a lot of stuff I found in my research that just seemed to line up and make sense, and it's all pure speculation with absolutely no basis in fact outside of the research that I was able to find on it. If somebody involved with the project wants to speak about it, please contact me. I would love to talk to you about this. But anyway, this is what I think happened behind the scenes. See, after the failure of Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, the entire brand was sort of tainted by its legacy despite the relative success of the TV show, which is understandable. If I told you one of the worst games on the Wii U had a full TV show, would you really want to watch it? So after 2 seasons, Sega cancelled Sonic Boom. Seeing the end in sight for one of their biggest surprise hits, I can see how Technicolor wanted a new property to fill the hole of one of their most successful works. And after the failure of Ratchet & Clank, Rainmaker took a step back and looked at if they wanted to even continue working on this project. Rainmaker re-uploaded their trailer for the movie, removing any release date from the trailer at the beginning of 2017, showing that they were still involved with the project, just now with no release date. In June later that year, Sony announced their partnership with Technicolor for the TV show, and judging by the similar art style and the fact that their website used the still from Rainmaker's trailer to advertise the show, I feel like this project was originally started as a spin-off of the movie, leaving Technicolor in a very similar situation as they were in with Sonic Boom, creating a sequel to someone else's work. However, this announcement may have been premature since Rainmaker fully left the Sly Cooper project in December of 2017. So again, Technicolor was given full creative control of a project based on an anthropomorphic video game character with ties to the color blue. Production on the show was done in relative silence. In July of 2018, PGS, the company distributing the show, announced that it would premiere in October 2019 through their website, along with a brand new trailer, but this was just another re-upload of the movie trailer, but now with Technicolor and PGS's logo on it rather than Rainmaker's. But eventually, the page was taken down, with Technicolor also removing the show from their website entirely. And that's all she wrote. There has been no information on the show since. With PlayStation now opening their own production studio that managed to get the Uncharted movie out of development hell, there is a chance that our raccoon just might have another chance at the big screen. But even if the movie gets revived, I don't think this TV show will ever see the light of day. So this is where I want to get creative. Even if the show gets revived, there's no way in hell that the original development team will be working on it. So I want to look at what little we do know about the show, using the knowledge of what we know about about the project's history and its developers to see if we can piece together a possible idea for the Sly Cooper TV show that could have been. First, let's look at what little information we have about what the story of the show was supposed to be so that we can kind of start from there and plot our direction. We know that Technicolor was given the project and immediately they gave it the same treatment in-house as Sonic Boom, being given an already created design and a basic story and lore, which is probably why the page on their website gave the same runtime and episode count that they gave Sonic Boom. But the difference here is that Sega eventually gave creative control to Technicolor, but seeing that they were given this project while Rainmaker was still attached, I think this was more to say that they had the show and used their winning video game adaptation formula during pre-production, not that this was necessarily going to be the final state of the project's release. I think the show was intended to be a spin-off of the movie, similar to other times Sony has made TV shows based on their big blockbusters, like Godzilla the series. So since Rainmaker did not formally stop working on the Sly Cooper movie until a few months after the show's announcement, I think that the producers and writers from Rainmaker and Sony would still have a say in the direction of the series, just to keep the brand consistent throughout. I think Sony has a proven precedent that they can make smarter business decisions than Sega, so I'm gonna trust that they wouldn't just give full creative control to a studio like that. So rather than its own thing, I'm gonna treat this as a sequel to my original movie pitch, so if you wanna know where the story ended up for our characters from that movie, just click there. Since Rainmaker would seemingly be in charge, I think that one of the first things they would change would be that 11-minute structure. Sly Cooper is very heavily reliant on the ongoing narrative to keep the player interested outside of platforming challenges, and I think that doing a villain of the week story wouldn't be the best use of these characters if connecting it to the movie. I could see that being the direction that Technicolor would have taken after Rainmaker left the project entirely, in which case, yeah, 11-minute episodes showing the gang taking out a different villain every week with Sonic Boom styles of humor and action. Video done, like, comment, subscribe. But we're going to imagine a world where the Sly Cooper movie actually came out, so I'm going to change the production order of the series. Rather than 52 episodes of 11 minutes each, I'm going to switch it to 26 episodes of 22 minutes each. The same total runtime of the series, just more time in every episode. Technicolor's original synopsis says Sly and the gang would be specifically fighting against a band of villains, which is the sentence I'm going to use to plot the show's entire direction. And Sly Cooper has no better gang of villains than the Claw Gang, the villains of Sly 2: Band of Thieves. Looking at the series as presented, there are three major villain groups in the franchise. Sly 1 had the Fiendish Five, but they didn't have any centralized plan and were more connected solely through their relationships with Sly. Sly 3 flipped the script by having you build the giant team of thieves rather than fighting one. And Sly 4 had the La Paradox Gang, a rather weak group of villains that didn't feel nearly as organized or as tight as the other groups. Sly 2's use of the Claw Gang has the most potential to be expanded upon, not only as a follow-up to the Fiendish Five, but to make a serialized story that can unfold over the course of a season. They are unique in the franchise as the only villain group that has the same centralized goal and actively working together to fulfill that goal. While each level has you taking down the individual criminal operations to get the parts of clockwork, each member has a role to play in the Grand Master Plan, even if they didn't fully know it. Since the Fiendish Five didn't have any real plan in the game, the biggest difficulty I had coming up with their story was trying to find a role for each of them to make them seem important to the movie without taking screen time away from the Cooper Gang or making the movie way too long. But with the TV show, it's much easier to focus on everyone and hide clues of the Grand Master Plan throughout. So if you couldn't already tell, Sly 2: Band of Thieves is what we're going to be adapting to make this first season of the TV show. The game already separates its story into several episodes, and the deeper story lends itself much better to a TV adaptation than a movie. Rarely did we see the Claw Gang interact with each other in the game. Most ran their own operations in a specific part of the world that contributed to the overall plan. It let the designers still create levels around the world that are still themed to the villains we're attempting to take down, adding mystery to the location that we visit next as we continue with our story. So taking a very similar approach that the games did, I feel like every location would be visited over the course of several episodes, creating natural arcs throughout the season and giving each villain an equal amount of screen time. In the game, we also only saw a handful of the clockwork parts: the tail feathers, the wings, the heart, the eyes, the stomach, the lungs, the talons, and an unseen brain. While it's assumed that Arpeggio held onto a majority of the actual parts, I always kind of saw that as a bit of a disappointment. Rather than each of the members of the Claw Gang having 2 or 3 parts, I feel like the nature of it being a TV show would let us be able to add other parts into the mix, giving each member multiple parts so we have an excuse to stay with them longer. Oh, that's my food. Hold on. So y'all thought I was lying. Fucking watch them. I'm gonna record. I'm gonna finish this video while eating these. Good wings. The one member of the Claw Gang I do want to give particular focus to is Dimitri. In Sly 2, he was the boss of the very first chapter, but after that he isn't even really mentioned again until the sequel, where he becomes an ally of the Cooper Gang. So I think setting this up during the story of Sly 2 could help add a lot of comedy, because honestly, this guy just steals the show whenever he's on screen. So I think setting him up to be a secondary antagonist helping whatever current member of the Claw Gang we're following could work. Whereas everyone else in the Claw Gang is mostly calm and collected, Dimitri is completely out of left field. So I want to reinterpret him as a sort of lackey character, assigned to help other members of the gang when the Coopers just so happen to be there. So now that we have our band of villains, let's take a look at our actual gang. Sly's personality changed a lot from Sly 1 to 2, and that change helped motivate his arc in the coming games. In Sly 1, we see him more as a rookie, less sneaky and more likely to engage in a fight, wanting nothing but revenge. It was a journey to prove himself worthy of the Cooper name. In Sly 2 and 3, we see him much more confident in his abilities, always bluffing his way out of situations, but is consistently taken down by his own hubris and overconfidence. He can be irritable when things don't go his way or he's forced to do something he disagrees with. He is usually squarely focused on the main mission of the game, whether it's finding the clockwork parts or getting to his family's vault. He doesn't always realize the damage that he causes the people around him with his one-track mind, thinking there's no way that he could possibly fail. And usually it ends up being his friends that end up saving him. We already had his arc being him realizing the importance of his friends, which is the arc that he has in the sequels. So in the TV show, I think they would still want to focus on that, possibly making episodes about Sly accepting that he can't always be in control, knowing that sometimes failure is just inevitable. Murray had a major change from Sly 1 to 2, going from this dopey younger brother of the group that was scared of absolutely everything to this hulking beast that loves to punch first and ask questions later. This change in direction took Murray from a rather forgettable part of the first game to one of the main reasons the franchise works so well thematically. When writing his direction in the possible movie, it seems like Rainmaker wanted to put focus on him in the process of getting over his naivete, so I rolled with it. It was easier to develop Sly and Bentley's relationship, with Murray acting as a sort of alternate perspective for both characters to consider, while also being an easy source of comic relief. I mean, look at this guy, he's a fucking riot. I didn't really have an arc for him in the movie outside of just being a swell guy, but I totally hope to fix that by the end of the show. Now, the biggest departure we have to deal with is Bentley. The injury that put Bentley in a wheelchair was a very important one in the context of the games. It was the event that made Murray leave the gang before Sly 3, feeling like he couldn't protect his friends when they needed him most. We saw the beginning of this story at the end of Sly 2 and the end of this story at the beginning of Sly 3, with the comic interquel showing how much it affected him. Since the art already shows Bentley in the wheelchair, I assume either he was intended on being injured in the movie or they were going to make it a part of his character in the show. So since I didn't injure him in my original pitch for the movie, I have to keep this in mind while making this show. So now that we have all of our pieces in place, let's take a look at this TV show that could have been. These are like Louisiana Cajun wings, and I gotta say, it's delicious. We start exactly where our movie started, in Paris, France. We have an opening that mirrors the movie very similarly, showing a shadowy figure jumping through rooftops with ease. The figure lands on a rooftop and is illuminated by flashing lights, showing our hero, Sly Cooper, in front of La Théâtre Formidable. In his ear, we see him talking with his crew, informing us about the operation they're about to execute. The club's owner, Dimitri, has been selling several valuable paintings that are just ripe for the picking. Sly infiltrates from the roof of the nightclub as we see Bentley hacking security from the safe house, directing guards away from Sly and directing him on where to go. We see him overlooking the massive dance floor, taking out his binocucom and finding Murray among the crowd, stuffing his face at one of the tables, commenting on how spicy the food is. The gang is in a familiar position from the movie, while also showing the steps they've taken to see how much they've grown. Bentley is running the operation out of the safe house, hacking the cameras to help Sly avoid detection so as to not leave a trace, with Murray posing as a patron wanting to purchase one of Dimitri's paintings. Murray gets invited to Dimitri's office, with Sly tailing him to see the secure areas the paintings are hiding in. Murray meets with Dimitri close to the heart of the operation, the seedy office overseeing the entire nightclub. Murray is intimidated by this scary figure, until he starts talking where Murray cannot understand a word of it.
Are you hearing what I beam to you? You think you have juice?
Bentley guides Sly to be close to the office and helps find where the paintings are being stashed. He finds a secret room leading underground and breaks in, finding famous paintings and art thrown throughout, with a suspicious machine in the center of it. Sly takes a closer look at the paintings to realize they're all actually counterfeits, and the closer he gets to the machine in the center, the faster the machine becomes. He notices the machine is actually a counterfeit printer, creating perfectly detailed forgeries of famous paintings using stamping machines. When Sly approaches the machine, he hears a faint growl coming from it, getting louder as he approaches approaches it and it overheats and breaks, with the large stamps at the center finally breaking off. Sly takes all the stamps and makes off with them, but not before noticing an invitation to a ball in India with a symbol signifying it's for VIPs. Sly sneaks a picture, gets out, and signals for Murray to end the conversation, and the gang meets back at the safe house. After running some tests on the stamps, Bentley identifies the metal as the same one used on Clockwork's body. The gang runs various tests and realize that Clockwork's body could actually survive the lava of the volcano, and they were actually holding on to Clockwork's original tail feathers. The gang finds out the origin of the symbol is that of the Claw Gang, a rather unknown criminal organization. So they decide that the next step is to go to the ball in India to figure out what's going on. Once in India, they sneak into a ball by forging tickets. The gang splits up in hopes to find some kind of answer to what the hell is going on and what the Claw Gang wants with Clockwork. They notice among the guests the Contessa, the head of Interpol. Alongside her is Inspector Carmelita Fox, and a new face that the gang doesn't fully recognize. The gang splits up trying to find their own information. The gang tails the two main members that they know about, Dimitri knowing he has ties to the Claw Gang, and the host of the party, Rajan. The gang gets very little information from the both of them, since Rajan is speaking to everyone and Dimitri hasn't left the dance floor. Sly is suddenly pulled away by the unfamiliar face. She introduces herself as Constable Neela. She starts dancing with Sly, feeding him information. After the defeat of the Fiendish Five, the Claw Gang went to Cracker Off Volcano to recover the broken pieces of Clockwork. They distributed the parts around the world in order to help with their own operations. Sly is horrified at this turn of events, knowing the true power and might of Clockwork. Sly vows to get all of the pieces as to destroy them to finally end the curse on his family's legacy. Neela gives him the known list of members in the Claw Gang: Dimitri, Rajan, John Bisson, and Arpeggio. Interpol has been tailing them for a few months and have even managed to recover the Clockwork eyes before they could be delivered to their destination. Interpol is actually at the party to see if they can gather any evidence about their operations. She tells Sly that legally Interpol can investigate without a warrant, but informs Sly of a passage outside that could lead to a more secure part of the palace, along with the room numbers of each of the members of the Claw Gang. Sly understands what she's hinting at and flirts with Neela on his way out. Sly breaks into their rooms and gathers as much information as he can. He rendezvous back with the gang and they create basic dossiers on what they know about each of the gang's members. They decide that their first target would be Rajan, since they were able to collect the most information on him. So now the show should be roughly 3 episodes in and the structure should make itself apparent. Unlike a movie in which you have to take a very tight story to make sure your audience isn't bored, television gives you more opportunities to connect with your leads. Sometimes filler is necessary in a story production-wise, but if you manage to develop a character or explore a cool idea, then it doesn't matter if it fully pushes the overall narrative forward. The next few episodes would feature our gang staying in India to learn more about Rajan and the other parts he has. Every time Sly approaches one of the parts, he can hear a faint growl emanating from them. Sly notices that the parts are reacting to the Thievius Raccoonus, causing them to go into overdrive the closer he gets. During their recon, they discover that Rajan is harvesting an illegal spice that when ingested in large quantities causes them to lash out violently. At the heart of the operation is ironically the Clockwork Heart, being used to increase harvesting tenfold. The Cooper gang then spends time dismantling the operation piece by piece and stealing any other parts that Rajan has in his possession. Meanwhile, Dimitri returns to Paris and notices that the Clockwork tail feathers were all stolen. After reporting it to Arpeggio, he starts connecting the dots that someone is after the Clockwork parts, and sends Dimitri back to India to work with Rajan. During their work, Sly meets up with Neela, who again helps them with crippling the spice operation. Sly asks why she's so willing to help them, and she responds that she wants her name to be immortalized forever in history, and feels that helping Sly is one of the best ways to do that. At the very end of the operation, they're finally ready to steal the Clockwork Heart, with Operation Wet Tiger. While things go off mostly without a hitch, Murray finds a room full of refined, grinded spice, noting a familiar smell. He accidentally sneezes and inhales it and starts lashing out and attacking guards, which puts the whole base on alert. Rajan manages to get to the heart before the Cooper gang and confronts them. In the fight, Rajan slams down on Bentley with his staff, using the full power of the heart attached to it. This snaps Murray out of his rage, who jumps in to protect his friend, defeating Rajan and taking the heart. Bentley says he can't walk and is carried back to the van by Murray. Neela and Carmelita enter the scene, with Carmelita tailing the Cooper gang while Neela arrests Rajan. The gang recoups back at their home of Paris, where Bentley's recovery isn't going the smoothest. He's lost all function of his legs. Sly's frustrated that the Clockwork parts were still out there, and Murray blames himself for Bentley's injury. Wanting to get out, Sly and Murray break back into Dimitri's nightclub in hopes they can find more parts. They overhear Dimitri talking to Arpeggio, who now assigns him to go to Canada and help John Bisson move spice around North America. When Sly and Murray return to the safe house, they see that Bentley has reverse engineered the Clockwork parts to build himself a fully capable wheelchair. He discovers that the parts react strongly toward emotion, with the strongest emotion being hatred, which Bentley explains is most likely the reason why the parts react so heavily to the Thievius Raccoonus. Murray is saddened that his best friend is stuck in the chair, but but Bentley assures him that it's okay. The gang then head on to their next location, Canada, home of Jean Bisson. After some recon work, the crew discovers that the heart of Jean Bisson's operation are the Iron Horse trains, which are locomotives that never require fuel and can easily transport shipments across North America. Carmelita and Neela are already researching the case. Carmelita finishes her dossier with a plan on taking down the trains due to her suspicion of illegal shipments going around the continent. Neela meets up with Sly to give him the dossier, with a full plan on everything they know about the Iron Horses and their operations, with Carmelita unable to figure out how the trains can be powered for so long without the need to shut down, which Sly correctly assumes is due to the clockwork parts. The gang does research and learns that the Lumberjack games are coming up, so Bisson will be busy training for them rather than giving his full attention to the entire operation. They also notice that the northern lights are being drained from the sky, being collected into some sort of battery through another part. After planning and setup, the Coopers know that the instant one of the trains goes down, Bisson will be alerted, so they plan to take the parts all at the same time. When all the trains are stationed, they proceed to sneak aboard and time the heist to go off at the same time, calling it Operation Choo Choo. The plan starts out fine, but quickly derails. Murray gets discovered and hides within the shipment, which turns out to be the spice Rajan was harvesting. Seeing only one way out, Murray eats the spice and goes into a full rage, winning the fight against everyone around him. He manages to get to the front of the train at the same time that Bentley and Sly get to their clockwork parts. However, as Sly approaches the part, it growls in anger and sends the train into overdrive. Sly's train derails and the gang barely manages to get away. The Cooper gang celebrate their narrow victory before seeing a commercial for the Lumberjack games, with the trophy being the last clockwork part Bisson has, the Clockwork Talons. Sly and Murray enter the games in order to compete and win. After nearly tying the games, it ends with a wrestling match between Sly, Murray, and Bisson. Just as the Cooper gang is about to win, the Contessa, Carmelita, Neela, and Interpol break in and arrest them all. Neela also has Carmelita arrested by linking the Cooper gang's plans and exploits to the information on Carmelita's dossier, and claiming that Carmelita purposefully let them escape back in India. Bentley watches horrified, seeing everyone arrested, and the van full of clockwork parts being taken away. He knows they are being taken to Prague and makes his way there. I also ordered garlic knots, which are like these garlic bread things, and I gotta say, they're fucking great. In Prague, Bentley finds the giant private prison run by the Contessa. While he can't find anything on Murray, he finds a schedule for Sly's day-to-day activities, seeing that he'll be transported to the re-education tower. Sly is given gourmet food in the cell that he refuses to eat, before being handcuffed and ready to move. Bentley sees Sly escorted and manages to save him, reuniting part of the team. Sly reveals that he hasn't seen Murray or Carmelita since they got to Prague, with no idea what happened to them once they were separated. He does reveal that the Contessa is a master of hypnosis and that the prison is being guarded by the weapons of clockwork. Sly and Bentley plan out how to cripple her defenses while also trying to find Murray, Carmelita, and their stolen parts. Meanwhile, back in Canada, Dimitri meets up with Arpeggio on the top of the battery. He tells them that the Coopers stole the part, but the battery itself is full of northern light energy. A massive limp takes the battery as they move toward Prague. Sly and Bentley intercepted the transmission, realizing now they have a limited time to pull off the heist. Without enough time to come up with a proper plan, they just break into the re-education tower to see what's so important in it. They break in and find the Contessa hypnotizing a prisoner with the clockwork eyes and lights that look vaguely like the northern lights. Before long, Sly and Bentley get ambushed by a brainwashed Carmelita and Murray. Sly confronts Carmelita while Bentley confronts Murray. During the fight, Contessa knocks Bentley over, with Murray having flashbacks to his fight with Rajan. Murray immediately snaps out of it and fights back against the Contessa. She commands Carmelita to attack Murray, but Sly manages to get her shock pistol in the confusion and sets it to stun and shoots her, knocking her out and snapping her out of the hypnosis. The team manage to defeat the Contessa and steal the clockwork eyes. Her computer gets a call from Arpeggio, so they use the eyes to hypnotize her into saying everything's running smoothly. Arpeggio says he's collecting the parts from her, including the clockwork eyes, which they make her agree. After the call, they put her in her own re-education machine and have her admit everything about the Claw Gang to the police. I haven't had these wings yet. I wonder what they're like. Delicious. They're just buffalo wings, but I'm a sucker for buffalo. The gang and Carmelita hide in the Cooper van, which is brought on board Arpeggio's massive blimp. Once the van has settled and they're safely in the air, the gang breaks out, only to see themselves surrounded. Arpeggio says he always knew that the Coopers had defeated the Contessa after she was so willing to give up the clockwork eyes. Neela reveals herself as she takes the Thievius Raccoonus from Sly. Arpeggio reveals his grand plan, the resurrection of clockwork. Clockwork systems ran on his hatred for the Cooper family, which provided enough energy to make his body immortal. Each one of the parts can feel the Thievius Raccoonus, which is why they would go haywire whenever they were in proximity to the book. The hate is focused into the hate chip, which regulates all of the parts as to not let them overheat. The idea was for Arpeggio to infuse himself into Clockwork, becoming immortal. The Claw Gang spice operation was all in service of giving Clockwork enough hate to sustain immortality. Rajan's spice made people act on their violent impulses and made them angry, but the effect is temporary and doesn't elicit enough hate to act as a fuel source. The Contessa's hypnotic abilities let her uncover the true potential of the spice, making people who consume it more susceptible to hypnosis through the use of lights and sound. John Besson was able to quickly improve distribution of the spice around North America using his trains, and also provided the Northern Lights battery, which can create a light show that can hypnotize anyone who's eaten the spice, being able to direct the anger caused by the spice into hatred of someone or something, creating the fuel that Clockwork can absorb. Dimitri's club acted as a front for the people of Paris to eat the food covered in the spice. The blimp was currently on its way to Paris to create the light show, which is the testing ground to see how much hatred can be generated from a single city. Knowing that the other members of the Claw Gang would not let go of the parts so easily once they came, Neela was sent to collect them and gather each piece, but changed her plan when she ran into Sly at the party in India, thinking that she could get them to collect as many pieces as they could while keeping her cover intact. While not being strong enough to power the body forever, the hatred generated from the Thievius Raccoonus would be enough to reanimate the frame. Dimitri is disgusted by the fact that they were going to mind control all of Paris, and is thrown into the cell with the gang and Carmelita. That's it. They lost. Everything is hopeless. When the guard leaves, Bentley takes a cube out of his shell, which becomes a spare wheelchair. Using the chair, he hacks into the security system and frees them, and they all rush to the bridge housing Clockwork. They see the body fully completed, and Arpeggio is about to add the Thievius Raccoonus to activate it. They reveal themselves ready to stop them, and Arpeggio orders Neela to handle them. In the fight, Arpeggio is knocked over. Neela and Sly fight on top of Clockwork, and Sly drops the mechanical bird on the floor, crushing Arpeggio. Carmelita steals the book away from inside Clockwork, which causes him to power down. Neela is at a disadvantage and is thrown into the bird's mouth. The mouth closes on Neela as Clockwork starts moving, her own hatred of the Cooper Gang powering the body. She now relishes in her new power and utters her new name, Clockla. Yeah, I never liked the name either. The gang moves quickly to sabotage the blimp to stop the light show before it goes off. As the gang tries to stop the blimp, Carmelita and Sly distract Clockla, who is slowly losing her grip on reality, becoming increasingly violent towards Sly in particular. Bentley, Murray, and Dimitri try to find a way to stop the blimp, but Bentley doesn't have enough time to hack all the systems. They tell Sly that they need Clockla to take out the blimp, and they agree. Sly taunts Clockla, making her hatred grow even more and making her even more unhinged. She attacks the blimp, bringing it down and causing it to explode in the air. Sly catches Carmelita and paraglides down to safety as Bentley catches Murray and Dimitri and floats using rockets on his wheelchair. They land safely on the Paris rooftop in front of Dimitri's nightclub. Clockla lands on the sign, destroying it and seemingly in pain. Clockla starts talking about a voice within her that won't stop, seemingly fighting within her own mind before finally calming down and cackling a familiar laugh. Clockla stares at the gang. A familiar voice comes from the bird. Sly Cooper. This isn't Neela anymore. Clockwork has been reborn. Clockwork no longer needs the Northern Lights to fuel him, since his hatred of Sly Cooper is enough to give him sustained life. The gang fight the bird in the streets of Paris, with Dimitri using his goons to attack him. All seems lost as Clockwork manages to make quick work of everyone. Our heroes are surrounded, thinking this is the end, when Murray notices something in the sky hurtling towards Clockwork. The team van. It smashes into Clockwork's head and knocks him to the floor. The gang plans on destroying the hate chip, which is in Clockwork's mouth. Murray forces the mouth open as Sly moves in with Carmelita to grab the chip from his mouth. After being unable to force it out, Carmelita decides to overload it, using her shock pistol to fry the circus until it falls. Sly and Carmelita clear out with the chip, and Bentley throws bombs into the mouth before Murray jumps to safety. The explosion destroys Clockwork's face, with the body falling to the floor. The gang takes a moment's respite. Sly looks on and sees the defeated Clockwork once again. He takes the chip and crushes it, which causes Clockwork's body to overheat since it could no longer control the power of his own hatred. Running on the same technology, Bentley's wheelchair starts to overheat as well. Murray runs towards Bentley and grabs him. Clockwork and the wheelchair explode, fully destroying Dimitri's nightclub and sending Bentley and Murray flying. They sustain minor injuries but look onto the damage and see Sly and Carmelita. The curse was finally over. Carmelita pulls her pistol on the gang and tells them that they're all under arrest. Sly responds with something witty but looks at his gang and realizes there just isn't anywhere to go. go. Sly turns himself in and agrees to go with Carmelita without a fight, as long as his gang can go free. She agrees, and Dimitri celebrates his freedom. It's short-lived, however, since Sly says he's not in the gang and Carmelita smacks handcuffs on him. Carmelita asks Sly why he went willingly, and he says it was for her. He wants her to be able to restore her reputation and clear her name. The final scene of the season has Sly and Carmelita in an interrogation room, recounting the events of the show. Carmelita's boss reinstates her rank and offers her a paid vacation for her troubles. The guards throw Sly into a cell. The season ends with Sly looking at the camera, smiling, revealing the key to the cell in his mouth. And that is the first season of the Sly Cooper TV show that we never got. It's the same basic story that the game had, but just mixed up to make more sense in a serialized format. So I want to ask you guys now, where would you have taken the show if you were given the full reins of the project? Would you have followed my lead and sort of continued on with this sort of adaptation of the series, or would you have just gone with that episodic format that Technicolor wanted to go with before? Is there something from the original games that I'm sort of missing that you think should have been included in the show? Please, let me know down below, or you can join my Discord and we can have a sort of discussion and see if we can come up with a possible season 2 as well. And while I have you here, if you really liked this video, please hit that like button because it really does mean a lot and really does help out the channel. And please subscribe so you know whenever I post a new video. I promise I'm not as disgusting as I have been in this video. I don't usually eat on camera. I'm just starving and I haven't eaten all day. And if you want to see other videos I've made, please click that playlist right over there. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next time. They're fucking great wings. This whole video, there's also been a dog just like right below me, wanting all the food I'm eating.